Hey everyone, J7Jace here. Thank you for waiting. This is my long-awaited recommended build and tips guide for Chapter 2 of Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, a lot of these setups aren't going to be that grind intensive, and you would probably unlock a lot of these things in a regular playthrough of the game, or based on what kind of items you can buy at the shops. So with all that being said, let's get started with some major tips. Anytime the game lets you recruit new party members,
just do it!
as you can never get them back, and they are all required for other side quests besides Boko and Lad. First off, I do recommend highly bringing in Alicia and Lavian into your party if playing on War of the Lions. They are required for a one-of-a-kind and very good accessory that you can get later on into the game, and they also appear in a cutscene as well in Chapter 4. I also suggest bringing in Lad and Boko to be a good person too. Real karma points, unlike Reddit. Ramza's sprite does change, and he can now equip heavy armor, shields, and he can learn a new ability called Steel, which will increase your bravery in battle and also permanently. So I do recommend learning this ability if you can right away, and to slowly increase his bravery first along with your other characters. High bravery will not only increase the chances of your reaction ability to go off, but it will also increase the damage you deal with your fists, katanas, as well as knight swords, which we will eventually get. So I do recommend doing this as often as you can. The only real negative to high bravery is when you use Treasure Hunter, but it's not important in most fights. For the first two battles in Chapter 2, you will have Gafgarian and Agrias join the party as guests. To make them a bit better, because the AI does questionable things, I like to remove their secondary action ability, which is usually some kind of magics, so they will be more likely to use their special sword skills. They also have better than normal equipment at this point in the game, so you can always remove their items and put them on your other characters if you wish. These items also have a chance to get stolen at Dorter in the first battle, so be very careful as well. As for the best jobs and characters to use, we do have several options depending on your playstyle. I'll also be going over other things that aren't quite as good, but they can be viable. And if you easily want to succeed, I do like monks and ninjas for physical attackers, and Holy Knight for Agrias, and Ramza's Squire are also fantastic choices too. As for magic users, I do like black mages and summoners at this point. They can do a lot of damage, especially with an elemental boosting rod and magic attack up or arcane strength. A lot of these loadouts will have similar reaction and movement abilities for the most part, and I'll also be showing some builds that you can use a little bit earlier on into Chapter 2 and then later on into Chapter 2 as well. So I suggest checking any towns to see if you can buy some new equipment, and if possible, here is another tip. I also recommend buying some gold helms and gold armors and other items at Lionel and Zaylin, as once you go to GOG, you can't buy quite a few of these until a bit later on, as you can potentially get soft locked out of the game in these next two battles. But here are the builds that can help you succeed. Monks are never bad period at any point in the game in my opinion. Just make sure to have high bravery, so use Ramza's Steel to increase it. Their abilities like Aura Blast, Chakra, and Shockwave are all useful. And for your secondary, Fundaments with Focus is more than good enough. And of course, items with High Potions and Phoenix Downs are what I recommend. For your reaction ability, Auto Potion is game changing, as we will be facing off against a good mix of physical, magical, and of course the insane Shadow Blade or Night Sword from Gafgarian. This ability is very much needed to help keep you alive. Just make sure to only use high potions at this point, as most enemy damage will exceed 30. For your support abilities, a variety of things can work. If you aren't in hard battles like the Gallows, Lionel Castle Gate, or versus Kukulane, you could use JP Boost. However, things like Concentration, Attack Boost, and Equip Heavy Armor are all abilities I do recommend. And finally, Move plus 1 or Move plus 2. If you want to grind a little bit more, Ninjas are also a fantastic choice. They are faster and more mobile than monks and can potentially deal more damage, especially with high bravery and brawler. Although, I find the abilities in martial arts just better. But for your secondary, you could always give them martial arts, and of course, fundaments with focus, and items with high potions and phoenix downs are all fantastic choices. I found ninjas slightly more useful versus Cuchulainn and Gafgarian, as they are quite fast, but in short, you can't go wrong with either. For your accessories, there will be some variety, and this will apply to most other characters and classes as well. In most cases, I do recommend either battle boots, power gauntlet, and when you can, diamond bracelet once it's available. However, rubber shoes can be a solid option in 2 battles, at Ballius Swale and Lionel Castle Gate. It nullifies lightning damage, which a lot of enemies have or use. And lastly, for the final battle, I do recommend Protectoring, as it protects you from sleep and doom, which Cuchulainn loves using. So change up your build in these fights. Now if you want to use Ramza's Squire, here is what I like using. The goal and playstyle here is to pretty much use Focus, Tailwind, or Steel constantly, and then pretty much just one-hit something or support your other party members. It's useful and works versus Gafgarian at Lionel Castle Gate in the duel, but Ramza as a ninja or monk is more than adequate. Now I'm aware of other strategies like teleporting out, having units teleport over, using zombie on yourself, but I think these are all flashy and not as necessary. Just auto potion tank and face roll it in my opinion. While Ramza can equip heavy armor at this point and it's better for more HP, I do prefer and like other options like Green Beret for the speed stat increase. But it's your preference and playstyle, so it's up to you. Now for our lovely Holy Knight here. It will take some grinding as she joins kinda late into chapter 2, but first off I do recommend getting Hollowed Bolt unless you get lucky and she comes with it. Then for your secondary, get items with high potion and phoenix down, auto potion for your reaction ability, and for your support ability, AP boost, safeguard, or attack boost, and finally, move +1 or move +2. She will be more than good enough, and give her the set of gold armor, leave diamond bracelet on her, and protect ring versus Cuchulainn. We have a model in the making. Now for magic users, Black Mage is still very good here, especially with some of the new equipment items we can use like Wizard's Robe, Hat, and Mage's Cloak, as they will increase our magic attack stat. So ideally, a female character is best and one with good faith, so 60s and higher. But you can always manually increase any unit's faith with Preach from the Order. Just pray for good or best Zodiac compatibility. And make sure not to increase it above 94 for all your other characters besides Ramza, as they will leave forever. Now for your abilities, absolutely learn the tier 2 and tier 3 spells like Thundara and Thundaga, and use the elemental rod to boost the damage even further, but I still prefer lightning element personally. For your secondary, we can use a few things. Summon can be great with Shiva, Ifrit, or Ramu. It's a bit slow to cast, but its area of effect and range can wipe out or bring groups of enemies into critical. If not, using items with high potions and phoenix downs is never a bad choice. Iaido can also be solid with Kotetsu, as it's instant and does good damage at this point. I just don't recommend Osuda as its damage is weaker, and Osafune only damages MP, so go with Kotetsu. Use Auto Potion as usual, then Arcane Strength. I do prefer this over Swiftness as it's much cheaper JP wise, and you can never go wrong with more damage, and this will further amplify Black Magic, Summon, and Iaido. Finally, move +1 or move +2. Earlier I did mention Summoner, which is another fine choice. I just don't think it's as effective as the Black Mage though, because they are slower speed stat wise, have less MA while you're in this job, and summon magic does cost a lot of MP, but they can work well. Just for your secondaries, use items with the usual high potions and phoenix downs, and of course, tier 2 or tier 3 black magic spells. Instead of Wizard's Hat though, you could also equip them with a green beret later down the line to increase their speed stat. But this build with the summoner here is more than adequate. Now if you wanted to use some other jobs, here are some setups that can win you battles. They just aren't nearly as good in my opinion, and not my first or desired choices. The man with the gun, Mustadio. To me, he is a bit high risk, high reward. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but a disable or immobilize can change the tide of the battle. An easy setup to give him is just throw items or turn him into a chemist with auto potion and move +1, and he'll be solid. And if you want to spend more time grinding with him, you could always get attack boost from the Geomancer, and I hate to sound like Lila from Hey Arnold here, but his damage will increase oh so ever so slightly. Samurai isn't too bad of a choice at this point. Grab Osafune from the shop, equip a gold set of armor, an attack boost or concentration, then increase your bravery if you have to, and you're pretty much set. Even though Iaido damage is based on MA, I found Kotetsu fairly strong at this point in the game. Give them items, martial arts or fundaments as their secondary, and you'll be fine. Another decent option for physical attackers is with the Dragoon. If you are able to buy javelins and spears at Lionel Castle before it gets blocked off, they can be pretty viable as well. But it will take long to get JP to learn one of the higher horizontal or vertical jumps, and of course equip Polearms. But if you do, a ninja or thief with jump with green beret and equip Polearms can do pretty good work. I love the way they look, but knights in my opinion aren't that great in chapter 2 I feel. But give them a set of gold armor, attack boost or concentration, and they'll be pretty decent. And don't forget auto potion as always. But if you insist, use this build. Now for archers. Oh man. They can actually do some decent damage if you can somehow get their attack to trigger the magic effect, and equip some magic attack plus equipment like Mage's Cloak and Wizard's Hat, and put concentration on them. This is probably by far the weakest of what I'm showing here, but grab that lightning bow and it's a build that you can use if you really want to. Geomancers can actually do quite well here because we have access to quite a bit of equipment that will further boost our MA. On top of this, their abilities are rather cheap to learn, they are instant, they have good range, and can cause negative status ailments. I recommend Tanglevine, Windslash, and Contortion the most here. However, Torrent can be really useful at Ballia Swale, and versus Cuchulainn, Will-o'-the-Wisp is useful. A good strategy if you're in range is to get off an elemental attack and wait in place to conserve your CT. And here is a build I like to use with them. To me, they are so overlooked. Just make sure you use females for more MA and to fight in style. It's still not the highest damage, but it's very viable. For my magic lovers, a white mage can be more than adequate. They do have a speed advantage over summoners and black mages, so you could use summon and black magic as a secondary. You could also learn holy, but it's just so MP heavy, but here is a pretty good build that is more than ample. And I do think they look the best design-wise and sprite-wise out of all the mages. Moving on, even though I don't really like them, I'm only including bards here as you can buy harps at the shop.
My name's Harp, here to talk some trash, prove that I'm the funniest, the best, and win this game!
If you're adamant about using them though, Life's Anthem, but particularly Rousing Melody and Battle Chant can be great in fights. Just don't go up to enemies attacking with your harp. But here is a nice setup. Because they do have low HP, enemy units are very likely to target your bard, so you could really abuse and use this to your advantage though. Or the last two magic users that can be pretty viable are Time Mages and Mystics. Haste on your party and slow onto your enemies is so great, and Time Mages also have solid MA as well, so you could always throw on Iaido, Black Magic, or Summon too. And if you grind pretty hard, using Swiftness or Short Charge can be devastating. The Mystic's Invigoration can be handy versus Cuchulainn, And of course, things like hesitation can be handy versus regular enemies. And they also pair quite nicely with other things based on your MA power, like other magic, Iaido, and Geomancy. Just give them some MA equipment and you'll be good to go. These are some builds that can help you get through Chapter 2. Just remember, if you're struggling, learn Auto Potion and keep only high potions in your inventory. Get Steel from Ramza and start increasing your Bravery stat. And if you want to use things like Knights, Dragoons, and Archers, make sure to buy a few extra gold armors and weapons at Lionel Castle before going into GOG, as you can't go back to buy these items. I hope this video helps you out, was informative, or was entertaining in some way. Thank you so much for watching, and wishing you the best.